and but like when you were talking, Dan, like about kind of sort of working and sort of teasing new ideas or stuff out of working, and it put me in mind of like listening to some painters talk about how they work, and like how there's on the one hand there seems to be a kind of ideas that arrive to you almost like in a revelatory sort of way, like they're from without. It's almost like, oh, aha, like this, I can do something with this, or what if it was like that? And then on the other hand, there's kind of like a sort of creative impulse, which is more like, what would happen if I, dot dot dot, if I did this, I did something like that, or did put it like this, like and it seems to me that like a lot of like your practice like involves a lot of making decisions like that. But I mean, do you often feel kind of like that? A lot of ideas do kind of arrive to you, or do you have to tinker with stuff a lot? Do you find yourself tinkering more with writing and editing, or do things come more fully formed now?
They here and there, but mostly like when I'm writing the plays. And in this play I'm writing, I think talk about it. This current one I'm writing about Joe Hill is that I have the characters. I have a note and say, okay, in this scene, this character will say this, and then it just sort of unfolds, and I'm just sort of like taking dictation of what they're saying, because I see the characters on stage and they're talking and whatnot, and that's part of the fun of it. And I've said this many times too.
Yeah.
Most writers, most artists that I know, angst. This woman who's got the post-its and the timeline on her wall, and she's not going to have fun writing this thing. Maybe she's not smart enough to know that it's not going to turn out to be a particularly good book, even if it's a competent book. You have to have fun, and part of the having fun is this generative dynamo. It's a thing that you don't know is a good thing. When I started Levels, I didn't know the end. Like I said, I ended up down the same alley as the prisoner. But I didn't know that. Although you could say, well, since you're referencing it, it might have been in the back of my mind, and that's certainly true. But it's certainly not like the end of The Prisoner, except for the fact that we're not quite sure of how it ends. But it's a totally different ending.
It's comparable, but yeah, I take your point. I think like what you were saying about the sense in that like. The novel almost happens for you in real time as you're writing it. In our previous interview, you were saying that like as you were writing like the New York quintet, you were like that you were sort of gasping as you were writing it. You were going, no, like, not like this, like, but that things happen kind of so as spontaneously as that kind of like it would almost take you by surprise.
Well, yeah, and things. I mean, Jessica she's got a great memory. She could give you chapter and verse about, if she went through my book, she said, oh, that really happened to us, that Dan, because as in the course of writing, if I'm writing a book and it takes like Levels took about 4 months to write, 3.5, 4 months, when I'm writing that, well, things happen to me. I didn't have the deer hitting thing when it happened to me, and I was depressed for a day or two after it happened, and I said, let me use that angst and depression for Tom, and so let me have Tom hit a deer. In one of my books, in fact, I think I forget which book it is, but I make I think it's the spy book. I make a dedication to a cat that I accidentally ran over. The Super 7, and so I just dedicate that book. But here it's more integral to the workings of the book. And
that's a very touching dedication, by the way. I've just got to mention that made me well up a bit. That dedication, that's like so sweet.
And I still can see that poor cat, because he's crossing this highway, and I couldn't stop for it. Just like I couldn't stop for the other animal. It wasn't the aardvark here in Texas.
But you didn't just dedicate it to the cat. You dedicated it to all the animals that went before their time, like all the roadkill. I think.
Yeah, because I hate seeing that. Here in Texas, you see that a lot, which is why I don't let my cats out.
Levels doesn't have a dedication, though.
No, but it is a love story. And it's one of the... I generally use a lot of epigraphs, but every so often I don't, because
You were
I just
saying in
want to
this
throw.
book,
I what?
you don't use epigraphs in this book very much.
Yeah, it's more just throwing it into the reader into the situation, and let it play out. And I don't know if there's really anything more to say about the book. Is there any more questions you have about it?
Let me just see. Let me just look through my notes. No, I've only to say that like that it's certainly a very kind of striking book, and it's worthy of a rereading. I think like that's certainly the another big thing about your literature, Dan. That kind of it rewards upon rereading. Kind of certain things will come to the surface with those returns to the text. So like I mean I've read Norwegian in the Family twice now, and kind of like
Really?
it was like a whole different experience the second time around. So
Wow.
I imagine this will probably be similar.
Yeah.
So if only to say thanks for all the work you do, and for like letting us read this novel. It's really an important book, and I hope everybody listening gets a chance to read it one day.